lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we're not ignorant of his devices. We'll start by giving all honor, all praise, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushai, Bahashim, Rachakwadash. Double honors to the elder apostles and bishops, the great millstone that rule well. As always, peace, blessings, and salutations. And to those who like tabernacle of David scattered abroad across the four winds of the earth. And yeah, you're looking at who you think you're looking at. All right, this is the character that you see over in Philadelphia, acting as this, Black Panther activist that's set out to protect his community and his people, and all people, for that matter. All right, he wants to protect blacks, whites, Asians, Latinos. He wants to protect the world. You know what I'm saying? That's all part of the objective, but that's all part of the character that this dude is betraying. He's clearly a freaking agent, man. And I'm glad, you got Jake out there that's catching on, and they're seeing through the bullshit. None of them is really trusting who this guy actually is, but it's, the timing of it all is very suspicious, how he just pops out, after this whole ICE situation in Minnesota takes place. He just pops up right on the scene in the midst of all this heat. Where the hell was this guy making all this noise prior to this incident in Minnesota? Now he's getting coverage. So, clearly he's another asset that's being used, all right, to stir up chaos, to stir up insurrection, okay? Because this guy, he got a lot of identities. He's a rap artist who's connected to, certain famous rappers. Then he's also a blood gang member. And now you look at him, he's this spokesperson for the Black Panther Party. Like, you couldn't make this up, man. This is more than obvious. Meet Paul Birdsong. So that's who this guy is, Paul Birdsong. Okay. So this is Grandmaster J 2.0. And it's getting real tacky, shoddy. We're at this point, you got to do better than this. All right. And anybody that still decides to follow this guy, you just, you're lost. And the scriptures say the simple believeth every word, but the prudent look well to his going. Okay. So, let me go here. Let me play this news segment. This is from Moorish World TV. I think this guy goes by the name of Taharka Bey. I remember the last time I saw him, he was in a situation with Tariq Nasheed. They had an issue. I don't know what for, but they used to go in on each other. But he even sees through this character, and he's able to find some newsreels covering, gang violence and gangs terrorizing neighborhoods, and they happen to end up on the news. And guess who shows up on that news segment? So let me play this real quick.
It has police on high alert. It's our top story at 6. Thanks for joining us. I'm Lauren Thompson.
And I'm Sherry Jones. The possibility of a gang is causing concern for people who live in the area around Sandhurst and Averill Drive, not far from Waverly Road. Kara Lake is here for you now in our studio. Kara, what does the police chief have to say about all this?
Well, Chief Darrell Green told me that they are taking this very seriously. They've added extra patrols in the area after receiving reports of concerning graffiti. And because of this situation, the people we spoke to did not want to show their faces on camera.
It's a very quiet neighborhood normally. We have a lot of retired people, a lot of working people on the streets. Some families have moved in.
But now, things are changing.
The last, I would say, month or two is when we've noticed some things happening around the neighborhood.
People who live there say they're noticing more graffiti.
And I said Bloods, and it was in red, and I was like, well, that's not good.
Yeah, I seen that graffiti on the sidewalks.
Says one person who has lived here for more than 50 years.
Yeah, it looks a little concerning. I mean, my son has considered me.
Now, this is in Lansing, which is up there in the Midwest. Why in the hell are there power rules in fucking Michigan? You know, power rule is based on a street in Compton. That's where the power rules originated. And now all of a sudden they all the way up in Lansing. That's because a lot of these street gangs, they're controlled by these alphabet agencies, man. I know about this gang shit because I grew up around it. All right? Them niggas are straight up controlled. It's the reason why the gang signs are, a lot of them are Masonic. You know? They're literally are set up, you know, entities to disrupt, you know, any type of progress or any resistance from jakes that are actually tired of oppression. They want to make sure, you know, groups that had the same objective as a Black Panther Party would never rise again. So those gangs, you know, wipe that out. Okay? They were the replacements after the Black Panther Party was infiltrated. And, you know, the Lord, you know, he destroyed that Black Panther Party movement because the Lord wasn't with it. You know, scriptures tell us that the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but spiritual. And those men that had a carnal objective, even though it was for goodwill towards their people, but they're no different than the Zealot groups, you know, from the ancient world when we were under the Roman Empire. You know, Gamaliel said it best, if this be of men, it'll come to naught. And that's exactly what happened. So now they're going to go for, you know, they're going to recruit guys that, you know, they got a criminal background. All right. They might have been a part of gangs that then committed, you know, felonies. So they'll use these guys knowing that, you know, they got their life hanging in a balance, and they'll incentivize them and use them as a federal asset, you know, to act like they're these, you know, profound street activists that's gathering people in their communities to rise up against oppression. And, you know, you're gonna see this. All right, especially with this rising tension between Jake and E right now under the Trump administration, with ICE, you know, with these white supremacists, you know, going after our people right now. So the timing of it all is very convenient for them. But anyway, let's keep watching this.
Us leaving or something, or, you know, moving.
I had somebody reach out to me saying she drove by a couple of times and people got in the car and chased her down, and, you know, they were hanging out of the windows shouting at her, almost crashed. So it's becoming more and more fluid every week.
Chief Green says the department is monitoring the situation.
I can't validate that there's any type of gang there, but certainly what has been posted is alarming.
We showed a video to the chief of an interview we did 2 weeks ago with a protester. He talked about
So this nigga's a protester. Look at him. He ain't in all black. You got this Puerto Rican J. Cole You know what I'm saying? This French Montana, you know, like, this is sloppy. So you take this French Montana ass dude, you know, drape him in some, you know, red. You know, now he's a part of a street gang. Then you take him out of the red and put him in black. And now he's Julio P. Newton. This is so see-through. He's straight up a Asian provocateur. You catching this guy, and every time you hear him speaking, he's speaking provocation. Listen to this dude.
Protesters in Portland being taken in unmarked vehicles by agents. But during the interview, he talks about gangs in Lansing.
You come try to snatch one of us, the rest of us gonna blast them. You better do that while we not with each other. And then you come to in Sandhurst with the Pyrus and the gangster disciples is linked up at and try to snatch somebody over there. I dare you. Make sure you get this in.
And he's talking the exact same way in that black uniform, posing as a Black Panther leader. Y'all can't tell me that this motherfucker right here is not an agent provocateur. He's a FBI informant or an alphabet agent operative. You can't tell me he's not. This is more than obvious. And these stupid ass jakes that, you know, they're willing to allow anybody to be down with them. Let me get a couple scripts. And we had to, you know, we had to deal with this in the Lord's time, where you had a bunch of men who were just feigning themselves to be men, only just to spy out, to get intel. Sirach, let me get this first one in Sirach 6. Sirach 6 and 7, it says, if thou wouldest get a friend, prove him first and be not hasty to credit him. And, you know, one thing about these different movements, you know, Jake, they just be looking for anybody to recruit. They don't ever vet nobody. They don't have a vetting system. You know, anybody could just be down as long as you, you know, you could look the part. You look the part, you sound the part. And that's why it's not easy to infiltrate us. You know, now some guys, you know, they get approached, you know, by some agencies, and they get a bag under the table, and they, you know, they end up selling their people out. All right, and now they have to you know, join a different objective. Like, you know, we call out a lot of the false prophets that we see that's, you know, all of a sudden switching up the doctrine because they, you know, they got that bag. You know, they take that gift. But certain dudes, you know, they get in there because these guys are not vetting them. They're not proving these characters. You know, no, you know, background check or nothing. You know, where are you from? Who, you know, where did you learn, you know, our objectives? How did you learn our doctrine or what we believe? How long have you been watching and listening? You know what I mean? And and these guys, they'll be in too deep like Jay Reed. They learn the lingo, they learn, you know, they learn the, you know, how the conduct. They get the dress code down, and they play the part very well. Straight actors. And that's somebody who's a dissembler. Dissemblers are people who hide themselves. They hide their true identity. And that's why King David said, I will not go in with dissemblers. A dissembler is a person who conceals their true feelings, intentions, or beliefs by giving a false appearance, acting hypocritically. That's what an actor is, a hypocrite, or pretending to be something they are not to deceive others. Okay? And that's what these agents are set out to do. Let me get that in Psalms. Yeah, Psalm 26:4 says, I have not sat with vain persons, neither will I go in with dissemblers. You know, King David, when he was in power, he had his army, his military. You wouldn't have dared be a op and try to, join forces with David, man. Because he would have found you out and that would have been your head. And all the mighty men he had, don't let one of them find out you a damn dissembler. Okay? He says, I have hated the congregation of evildoers and will not sit with the wicked. And that includes sellouts, they who take bribes, bags, false leaders. King David said, he said that I hate every false way. Through thy precepts I get understanding, therefore I hate every false way. And these other religions, these other groups that don't value the scriptures, that don't have a foundation in Yahweh Shai and in the gospel, you're a false way. You're part of a false way. And Jake better get from away and follow the true way. All right, the Lord has a path, but Jake, they still groping in the noonday, as in darkness. They don't know where they're heading, man. So let me jump down to verse 9. It says, gather not my soul with sinners, nor my life with bloody men. Because these men, they got blood on their hands from, taking it back and selling their people out. That dude, William O'Neill, he was a bloody man. Infiltrated that chapter in Chicago and it got Fred Hampton murdered. Set him up, lined him up, man. And it's like, where the hell is your conscience? But our people don't care. They've always been their worst enemy. There's always been sellouts among our people. Just gather not my soul with sinners, nor my life with bloody men, in whose hands is mischief. That's one of the things that the Lord hates is, feet that be quick to run to mischief. Always getting into something where a evil plan was corroborated. You planning to go rob, you planning to go, commit some type of criminal act against your people. Or you being used in a plot to set your people up. And their right hand is full of bribes. And all it takes is, for somebody or an agency to approach these individuals. I know your track record. I can actually put your ass under the jail, or I can give you this ultimatum. I can actually reduce the time that you would get if you would come and do this, and we'll give you this amount of money. That's all it take. Especially if you was a nigga that was in them streets. And the hip hop industry is filled with these type of dudes too, by the way. Everywhere you look up, when there's some type of situation going on, this guy got, he got the tea. he got this paperwork or he got this or that. And then he's calling everybody snitches and this and that. When this guy got cases of his own. And how is this guy not being touched? How is he, wrapped up in everything, but he's never taken into question? He's always making threats, but nobody's touching him. Come on, man. You got a lot of federal informants and federal agents everywhere. So let's go back, finish this out.
Sandhurst, that's Sandhurst. Come over there, try to take somebody. I dare you. I dare you. Your mama gonna be picking out caskets and flowers.
Very concerning. Very concerning. And that's the first time I've seen that video. It's alarming to see that type of video. And definitely we have some great partnerships with our federal partners, our state partners. Would like to get a copy of that video and make sure we do a deep dive and for proper understanding.
It seems that he was bringing this rhythm to Lansing. And the news reports talk about the start of gangs in Lansing, Michigan. They talk about the graffiti in Lansing, Michigan. And it's funny how he talks about how he was doing graffiti and how he's from the West Side and all of this weird stuff as it relates to gang affiliation. But it seems that the news saying that the gang affiliation or the gang activity started very recent. And it seems to start at the same time when he started talking about gang activity, trying to promote his music.
Hey, Blood, look at homie wearing all blue. Get homie stacking at us from across the street. Hey, Blood tripping. Check this. Hey, what up, homie? Hey, why don't you let me connect my B with your C and you crip walking, not blood walking. We do that right in front of one time while you over there at the corner scoping us.
Crazy to me.
Oh yeah, come on, man. This is too obvious, man. This is too obvious. And let me yeah, he going in. He bringing it all out. Yep. Now look.
And I'm going to tell you something. All the signs point to illegitimacy as it relates to Paul Birdsong. Just like it is with Tariq Nasheed. There is nothing legit about Mr. Nasheed being an activist. There is nothing legitimate about Mr. Nasheed introducing FBA for the betterment of our people.
Yeah, all these dudes is all of them, man. And that's why the script. Let me get Isaiah. All these vices to keep you Jakes from returning back to your true heritage. And to distract you, make you err from the path of your salvation. That's all this is. Isaiah 9:16, it says, "For the leaders of this people cause them to err, and they that are led of them are destroyed." So a lot of these guys are all set up. And you being a lost sheep, following whoever, if they look the part, if they talk the part, you're gonna follow them. When you got your true leaders are the prophets, the men that you see out there that's been warning you for decades of who you are and who you're to be serving and who you're to be worshiping. We're telling you why you're under these conditions because the Bible tells you clearly. And you're not going to protect yourself when the Lord has this man in power over you. All right? You study the curse so that you would have no might in your hand. So you put a damn gun, that ain't nothing. That's not your power. And we tried this over 2,000 years ago. The Zealots. Okay? Amos. not Amos, Salakia. Acts 5 and starting at the 38th verse. Matter of fact, let me jump up. And I'm gonna read it in the AMP. This is Acts 5 and 35. It says, Then he said to the council, men of Israel, be careful in regard to what you propose to do to these men. For some time ago, Theudas rose up claiming to be somebody of importance, and a group of about 400 men allied themselves with them. But he was killed, and all who followed him were scattered and came to nothing. After this man, Judas the Galilean rose up and led an uprising during the time of the consensus, because they didn't want to pay them taxes, and drew people after him. He was also killed, and all of his followers were scattered. So in the present case, I say to you, stay away from these men and let them alone. For if this plan or action is of men, merely human in origin, if this ain't sanctioned by the heavens, right? If the Lord ain't dealing with these dudes, he ain't got the spirit on these men, it will fail and be destroyed. Just like the original Black Panther Party. All them dudes, they got scattered. They fell into the drug epidemic. There was a lot of infighting. And that came to nothing, man. Dudes became strung out. They became baseheads, Huey P. Newton included. Guys turning on each other, sellouts. It says, but if it is of the Most High, and it appears that it is, you will not be able to stop them, or else you may even be found fighting against the Most High God. Yeah, man. And that's what you can't infiltrate. The Lord, Yahweh Shai said, you will not be able to pluck them out of his hand. All right? But you're going to have guys that's going to try to creep in, some other way. And the same that do that is a thief and a robber. All right, you wolves in sheep's clothing. So these are the, different vices, to keep our people scattered. And that's why the Lord, only a remnant is going to return to him. All these vices is out there to make the pathway of the Lord that much narrow. All these false prophets, false teachers, pastors, and then you got all these activists, so-called pro-black activists. Our people believe in everything but Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. And that's why in these last days, they're going to go through it. They're going to catch hell. Okay? We're in the dawn of Jacob's trouble, man. And until they come back to their power, they're going to go through it. They're going to face it. But this is way too obvious, man. You heard him talking in that red attire like he's a gangbanger making threats. Now he's a Black Panther making the same threats. Put a Puerto Rican looking J. Cole in all these different costumes. So let me do this now. And I typed this in. I said, explain the FBI and federal informants' infiltration of the Black Panther Party. And then it came back and said the FBI's infiltration of the Black Panther Party was part of a broader secret counterintelligence program known as COINTELPRO. Everybody should know this, which operated primarily from the mid-1950s through the early 1970s. The goal was not just surveillance, but disruption, division, and destruction of organizations the FBI viewed as subversive. I remember when J. Edgar Hoover, he made the statement, there will not be another Black Messiah unless we create him or make him. So, When you see this a guy that just randomly appear out of nowhere and he has all this backing, he rise up to leadership in a very quick fashion, and he has the gift of gab. He has a code of personality. That's who you watch out for, because that's who they worked on and grew them up, for the assignment. And that's what Grandmaster Jay was. This nigga was a DJ, but he was a fake DJ. He wasn't even a real DJ. Then he's a Muslim. Then he's an Israelite. Then he's a leader of the Not Fucking Around crew. But he got guys in his organization, shooting themselves. Don't they have control of their weapons? They're walking around with prop guns, all kind of craziness, man. And then they got rid of him. He just disappears. So they had to basically, write his character off the script, and now they got a new one. It says, why the FBI targeted the Black Panther Party. Founded in 1966 by Huey P. Newton and Bobby Seale, the Black Panther Party advocated armed self-defense against police brutality, black political self-determination, socialist economic ideas, community programs, free breakfast, health clinics. And hey, the way the ISUPK, their whole appearance and their whole demeanor is like a page taken from out of this organization. When you look at these dudes, you compare and contrast them. They're pretty much the Black Panther Party with the Bible. But you would look at them and be like, man, they don't look too far from the ISUPK. The only thing missing is one of them, and they're all black, to say, if it ain't under the commanding general, it is not of the Black Panther Party. You know what I mean? It says FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover labeled the BPP the greatest threat to the internal security of the country. And they don't like when Jake is being galvanized. They don't like Jake, coming together. And now, through this truth, you got all the tribes coming together. And that poses a bigger threat than, these boogeymans that they set up, to start these wars, because those guys are actually controlled. But this right here, when Jake is coming together, under a different purpose, and it's not being controlled, that's a threat. That's concerning to E. Like we read Revelation 11, and it says how, when the breath of the Most High entered into us and we stood upon our feet, and the nations, they great fear fell upon them which saw them, because they seeing us, we're being gathered. We're being gathered and ordered for the mountain, the body of Yahushua. And we're preaching a revolutionary message, because we're actually, part of the testimony is Yahushua is coming back to destroy this kingdom and set up the kingdom of heaven on earth. They don't like that. They thinking that they're establishing their kingdom here on earth right now through the New World Order, with no Messiah, no Hamashiach Yahushua, no King David, being a nation of imposters. Just COINTELPRO, the framework, tactics used against the Panthers included infiltration via informants and undercover agents, psychological warfare, fabrication of evidence, legal harassment and false arrests, encouraging internal conflict and violence, collaboration with local police departments. It says encouraging internal conflict and violence. And that dude, every time you see him, he's encouraging violence. He's threatening what they will do if such and such do. If y'all do this, then we're going to do that. You know, Yahweh Shai, he told us to be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. You know, when he was reviled, he didn't make threats. You know, that's in was that 2 Peter, if I'm not mistaken. Let me try to find that. We're not to be threatening the authorities. The scriptures say to obey the powers, obey the authorities, man, the powers that be, because they were ordained of the Most High. Let me just do this. Okay, 1 Peter 2:21, it says, "For even hereunto were you called, because Hamashiach Yahushai also suffered for us, leaving us an example that you should follow his steps, who did no sin, neither was guile found in his mouth, who when he was reviled not again, when he suffered, he threatened not, but committed himself to him that judgeth righteously." And the Lord, the one that's he's gonna justify his elect, and he's gonna avenge them. Okay, he said, "Vengeance is mine; I will repay," saith the Lord. And we believe that. We know that. The scriptures tell us that when the enemy shall come in like a flood, he will lift up a standard against them. So, you know, we have a whole different, you know, power that's not of this world, man, that's gonna act on our behalf. These niggas think that there's power in a damn gun. This Esau just showed you what he can do down there in Venezuela, man. The weapons that they was able to use, that was like left-hand spiritual power. They couldn't, they did it with ease. And they got out with their president unscathed. You know, they didn't even have to duck a shot. But these niggas in all black handling, you know, prop guns and shit. And that dude gonna get a lot of these niggas killed. You know, and he might get, you know, ease through the back out of there unscathed so he can get his paycheck. You won't even see this dude again. Just like Grandmaster J. It says the aim was to neutralize the party, meaning prevent it from growing, gaining legitimacy, or uniting black communities. And then it says informants and infiltration tactics. Paid informants. The FBI recruited disgruntled members, people facing criminal charges, and that's how they can get you. You know, we can prevent charges, you know, extra charges that you might be charged with. You know, if you join this operation, and we'll keep you from out of bars. We'll make sure your family's all right. But you gotta go on this mission. It says financially vulnerable individuals. Man, I gotta feed my family, man. I gotta eat somehow. These informers reported on meetings and leadership, identified weapons locations, created paranoia inside the organization, sometimes instigated illegal activity to justify arrest. See that? And that's why you don't let every man into your house. You get that in Sirach 11. Sirach 11:29, it says, "Bring not every man into thine house, for the deceitful man have many trains. Like as a partridge taken and kept in a cage, so is the heart of the proud, and like as a spy, watcheth he for thy fall. For he lieth in wait and turneth good into evil, and in the things worthy praise he will lay blame upon thee." Yeah, he will get your whole organization blamed. Okay? High-level infiltration. Some informants reach leadership positions. The most infamous example, William O'Neill. And now this Paul Birdsong guy. And I don't see how them niggas don't see this. Became head of security for Chicago Panthers, provided floor plans and intelligence to the FBI, supplied information that led to the 1969 police raid and killing of Fred Hampton and Mark Clark. O'Neill later admitted his role and died by suicide in 1990. Judas Iscariot. You know, and hey, it was a good ass movie, man. Judas and the Black Messiah. That was a good movie. You know, that was on point with that. It showed you. But he had a conscience, and he knew he fucked up. Couldn't live with himself. Just like Judas Iscariot, he couldn't live with himself after he gave up the Lord for 30 pieces of freaking silver, man. But today, the scriptures say our people love gifts. They love bribes. So you're gonna have a lot of sellouts in this final time. Okay? But, you know, I'm not gonna read through all of this. But yeah, this is what it is. This is what they do. Okay? You know, of course, the FBI was partnered with local police, and they kept certain guys to keep tabs on, you know, the leaders and the different members. Yep. And the scriptures say, you know, their eyes are privily set against the poor, so they're gonna always keep you under the scopes. You tribes, they don't want you tribes galvanizing yourselves. They don't want you, you know, gathering and organizing. So they're gonna always have these type of tactics ready. That's why we don't let nobody. We vet dudes, man. Plus, if you got paperwork with Esau, it's over with, man. They sold you all just off of that alone, man. You do any kind of paperwork with E, you got a 501c3. You know, you got you a school, a physical building where all your people meet up at. Let something go wrong and your school get raided, like Comfy. So, yeah, man. And then I asked here, I said, how were agents or informants rewarded for infiltrating these movements? Agents and informants who infiltrated the Black Panther Party and similar movements were rewarded in multiple, often overlapping ways, both formally and informally. These incentives help explain why infiltration was so extensive and sometimes aggressive. Most common, cash payments. Paid FBI informants. Informants were often paid regular stipends or per tip fees. Payments range from small sums to thousands of dollars depending on the value of information. High value informants, those close to the leadership, receive bonuses for actionable intelligence. Yep. All for the bag. So the scriptures say the love of money is the root of all evil, man. Because William O'Neill, for example, received monthly payments, expense reimbursements, additional rewards after the Fred Hampton raid. Money was especially effective for recruiting low-income individuals, people with unstable employment, members already disillusioned with the movement. So you know, these guys are disgruntled, just like you're going to have guys in the truth, in the camps that get disgruntled, disillusioned. You know, then they'll run off and, you know, get approached by somebody, and then next thing you know, they're set up, and now they got a new logo, a new, you know, garment. You know, they partnering up with these guys over here. They got a new following. They got a new doctrine. So yeah, leniency in criminal cases is another one. One of the strongest incentives was legal protection. Informers were often facing drug, weapons, or theft charges, on probation or parole, under investigation for serious crimes. And, you know, he's even that Paul Birdsong cat, you know, he's got up on a news segment and said, you know, it was a video where he was saying that he don't want to talk about what crimes he committed and, what he is guilty of, and he don't want to talk about his background. I'm pretty sure you don't want to. You got a background, but yet you making all you out here moving reckless with your mouth. That should raise up some flags. In exchange for cooperation, authorities offer reduced charges, dropped cases, lighter sentences, ignored parole violations. In some cases, informants were allowed to continue criminal activity as long as it served intelligence goals. Okay. Much like when the CIA had, Freeway Rick Ross and these different type of dudes set up when they was bringing in the drug epidemic, the crack cocaine epidemic. He went out there and spilled the beans on how, the CIA was heavily involved. So all these agencies, they're criminal organizations themselves, but they're there to spy out on other criminal organizations and control it. Protection from prosecution, immunity by practice. They never getting in trouble when they doing shit. That's a given. Career advancement for FBI agents. You get promotions, performance evaluations. Yeah, come on, man. Increased budgets, authority. Yep. Psychological and social rewards. Yeah, so it's breaking it all the way down, man. Relocation and identity protection. So this guy goes from Lansing all the way over to Philly. See that? And he's getting some type of protection, man. You see this? New identities. So once these insurrections start to, spill over all over the country, what identity is he going to take when it starts to get hot? And law enforcement and the troops, because we know Trump is going to eventually call for the Insurrection Act. So once the troops get in, where going to move him? He ain't finna get down with the military. So, yeah, man. So get down to the bottom line. I'm gonna close out. It says, bottom line, agents and informants were rewarded through money, legal leniency, career advancement, protection from consequences, psychological validation. So just imagine that you're getting all that, you're gonna feel invincible. You're gonna be very careless, reckless, because you know that you're receiving all kind of benefits and protection. So, yeah, man, let's say should get an advantage of us if we're not ignorant of his devices. And you're gonna have a lot of this going on, man. A lot of spies, agents, provocateurs, crisis actors, all these psyops. And that's all because this devil knows that his time is short. So he's going to shoot all these fiery darts. Okay? That's why we got to keep on that armor, man. Put on the whole armor of the Most High that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. Okay? Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about seeking whom he may devour. All right? And he that live by the sword shall perish with the sword. So all these niggas, getting guns, thinking that that's going to be the neutralizer, you sadly mistaken. So I'm going to end on that note. I'm going to give all honor, all praise, and glory to Yahweh Shem Yahushua. And until the next lesson, I say, Shalom.